Okay, Miss Lawson, I know you've been a special ed teacher for a couple years, and I just want to ask you a couple questions in regards to interviews. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, so interviews can be something formal or informal, just a simple exchange of information. How would you define informal and formal interviews, and what are the major differences between the two?
So informal interviews are just like basically casual conversations, and you talk about your previous jobs between the interviewee and the interviewer, or it could be in a group. When I think of a formal interview, it's more of a one-on-one interaction between two people, and they're trying to see if you're qualified enough for the position. So a formal interview has like a specific set of questions geared towards a goal because they're trying to hire you and they want to know if you're the best candidate.
Okay, and then that leads me to my next question. So you obviously interviewed for your position, but do you ever informally or formally interview your students, and what is most helpful for you to know about them?
Actually, at the beginning of the year, I do interview the students, and I usually use like a student interest survey. And so from the survey, it tells me what their interests are, what their hobbies are, what their likes are. And that helps me because sometimes you have to know a little about their culture in order to plan around activities. And you want to have that relationship with your students where you know their background to help them.
And would you say that for the most part the kids are more honest when in their responses when you communicate with them, or do they tend to maybe alter the answers because they might be worried about what you might think?
No, actually, my students know me, so over a period of time, they know that I respect the truth. I honor the truth. So they don't even think twice about not telling me the truth. They know that that I sort of lose respect for someone once it happens, once they're not telling the truth. So my students always tell the truth, a little too honest, but I appreciate it. I so appreciate honesty.
And then, so as a teacher, you also communicate with parents, and that could be also very different, obviously, than communicating with the student. So when you do exchange information with parents, is it generally more formal, or do you feel it's more informal if you already know them or have a relationship with them?
For the most part, because I email more than one parent on a weekly basis. So I email about 40 parents each week, so it has to be more formal when you're addressing a larger group of people, because you don't want any credibility as a teacher lost. So I always go the formal route in any situation.
So you mentioned email. Do you feel that parents act or respond differently versus like email or face-to-face? Do you feel like your dialogue could possibly change depending on what context you're in?
For the most part, it stays generally the same because I do email in a large group format. So I would say that it pretty much stays the same. I do have parents that do come to the school and request to speak to me. So in that situation, the context may change because I'm more familiar with them. We have more relationship. So face-to-face, I would say it does tend to go the informal route because I develop a relationship with parents, and I feel that I can be open and honest with them. But when I'm emailing, that's a whole different situation. It has to be formal, it has to be direct, it has to be clearly stated.
Good. And then obviously as a teacher, so we're dealing with students, we're dealing with parents, but as a special ed teacher, you also have to deal with a lot of general ed teachers in collaboration. So I've noticed this in the placement or at other schools. So if a gen ed teacher comes to you and says, I have a lot of concerns about, such and such student in regards to, let's just say, behavior, what types of questions would you ask to better understand the situation and collaborate with that gen ed teacher?
Well, typically I have 3 questions that I ask from the beginning. And it's usually I ask what behaviors are actually exhibited in the classroom, if they can give me some background. I also ask them, do they seem to struggle with comprehension, even if not even with the instruction, but if it's just simple directions, do they struggle with that? Just to get an idea of how to diagnose the situation. And the last question I ask is socially. Do they seem to be socially motivated to speak with the other students? Or not, or there's some struggles with associating with people. So I always look at, are they able to talk to other students? I also want to know what behaviors they are exhibiting in the class. And then the last thing I want to know is, are they able to comprehend just simple instructions to begin with?
Great. Thank you so much for your time. That was super beneficial, and I hope the TE 801 class also agrees.
Thank you.